So there's this couple on the internet that I would say gets the people going. They have a large age gap, and I think they finally cracked the code of engagement farming and rage bait, because every single video that they post has something to do with either their race, the fact that they have a huge age gap, or the fact that how they met was less than ideal. Let's just get into a couple examples of the types of videos that they post and talk about it. The first video is going to be about how they met, which actually at the end of the video, I'm going to show another video, like a reaction, a compilation that someone put together, a very short compilation, but a side by side of the different stories that they've told of how they met. But let's just get started with the very first video. I have so many questions about this video, because it's one thing to have a large age gap and for it to be like a thing in your relationship, but it's not the sole focus. And I know when content creators make a name for themselves, they usually have a niche or a specific type of content that they will put out there. You have people who talk about red pill content, you have people who talk about cooking, you have people who talk about relationships. But this particular couple has figured out that if we keep talking about our 21-year age gap, people will be riled up. We will get the people going. And that's exactly what they do every single video. So this one is just an example of how she's talking about when he was 18, this is what he looked like. And here I was not even born yet. It gives a little cringe. It's also like, if it's a one-time thing, okay, haha, that's funny. But it keeps going. It keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. Like, they don't stop talking about their age gap. And at some point you have to ask yourself, like, okay, what's really going on here? And I know people talk about like, oh, different people mature at different ages or at different stages in life, or like once you're 18, you're legal. But I personally just can't help but feel like this is so cringe. And it's hard for me to fathom what a 41-year-old man or a 41-year-old woman would have with an 18-year-old partner. Like, listen, the way that I saw life and viewed things when I was 20, when I was 25 is so different than how I view things now at 33. And that comes with life experiences. That comes with just being exposed to the world. I know they talk about the frontal lobe being fully developed at 25, 26, but even after that, you're still developing as a person. And the way that you approach life and the way that you do things, I don't care what anybody says, you're not mature for your age. And that does not make it okay for you to go and be dating somebody that's twice your age at 18 years old. I think if you're 40 and 60, I can kind of see it, because it's like you're 40 and 60. You've done a lot of growing up. But 18, I think that's just so young. So this video made me cringe, but let's move on to the next one. Now, it's one thing to cringe at the age gap. It's another thing to learn that this man dated his daughter's friend in high school, or as soon as she graduated high school. The way that they met is controversial, is up for debate at this point, because they've given different versions. But I can't wrap my mind around someone dating their friend's dad, especially at that young age. I can't wrap my mind around a dad looking at his daughter's friend and being like, yep, I'm going to date her. And actually, I have some personal feelings around this, because coming from the Senegalese society, like Senegalese culture, there's so many shows and movies that depict this. And that's because it happens in real life, where it's a polygamous society. The men can have up to 4 wives if they're Muslim. So there's been stories of dads marrying their daughter's best friend or marrying their son's girlfriends, because they're like, I can have up to 4 wives. And it'd be different if the mom, like if the first wife was out of the picture, she passed away or they divorced, and he's like, you know what, I need a new lease on life, or I'm having a midlife crisis and I'm going to do this. But no, typically what you see is the dad and the mom are still together. They have grown children, and those grown children have friends. The dad will be like, yep, that friend of yours, that's who I'm going to marry. And then that friend walks around being like, well, I'm your auntie now. Ha, ha, ha. And your daddy, da, da, da. This is so disgusting to me. I think it's so unethical. It's so immoral. I cannot wrap my mind around this at all. I would go ape shit. When I learned about their age gap, that was one thing. When I learned the additional details, that's when I really started side-eyeing this couple. Like, serious side-eye. With that said, let's look at another cringe moment, because that's all they seem to post. One thing that I couldn't help but think as I scrolled through their page like a creep is some of this stuff I feel like can come back to bite you. I always talk about oversharing on social media because I don't think people should do it, especially when it comes to your relationship and your family. Like, there's some things better if you don't post. And I know, like I mentioned in the beginning, certain people have a niche, like they post relationship content, they post couple content. So they're not the first to do this. But I feel like given everything that we've talked about already, it's almost like a slap in the face to the people who you hurt to get into this relationship, like your friend or the kids who are now the stepchildren of this young lady. I feel like when you post things like that on social media, it not only opens you up to so much scrutiny, it opens you up to evil eye for people who wish bad upon you, because I don't wish bad upon them. I might criticize, I might side eye, but I wish the best for them, and they're not the first to do it. There's people out there who have 30-year age gaps. There's people out there who have 40-year age gaps. So that's not necessarily what the problem is. I think it's like the arrogance and the smugness that's really like, oh, I don't want this for you, girl. Do you guys remember that lady on social media? I think she had a YouTube channel where she would talk about how she was following Shira Seven sprinkle concepts or principles in life, and she was able to bag herself a rich man, and they live together, and she's living the soft life, and she has this and she has that. Well, if you guys remember, or maybe some of you don't know, that lady, and I don't even know her name, but anyways, this lady was making a lot of content about leveling up in life, bossing up, and living the soft life. Well, not necessarily bossing up, but like marrying up, really, because she wasn't in the business of working, even though her YouTube channel was generating money. That's what her job was, like putting her family out there. Okay, so she ends up finding out that her husband was essaying her two little girls. And then she goes into this background story of how they only knew each other for a few days before he asked her to marry her. And then she moved her and her two kids at the time in, and then they have two kids together. So 4 kids total living in this house with this man that you barely knew when you met him, barely knew when you moved in with him, barely knew when you married him. And then you built an entire platform telling other young girls that they should try to do this. They should try to find a rich man. They should try to live the soft life. And then you fast forward a little bit and you have to make this video with your tail between your legs saying he was a monster to your kids. I'm not saying that's what's going on here. I'm just saying I think we should be very careful about the type of content we put out there and what we tell others they should be doing in their lives, especially impressionable young girls. And I think we should also be very cognizant of the decisions we make in our own lives and whether those are good or bad decisions. There's so many red flags that people miss in these kinds of relationships. Not this one, but like in the relationship I just talked about, that woman. There's so many red flags that people overlook because they're trying to get that moment of fame, or they're trying to build that brand, that platform, and get like, there's so many people I think who are desperate for attention, for fame, for money. And I just don't want that this couple, not that it matters to me because I don't know them, they don't know me, and they don't care either. They always talk about on their page how they don't care what anybody thinks. But me being a commentator, I'm just going to say, I'm just weary of couples who show everything on social media and share it with this arrogance of like, what I'm doing is right and perfect and this and that. And like, you should aspire to be like me, because people change. You don't know people fully. You do not know people fully. I don't care how long you've been with somebody, you don't know them fully. So I just am always cautious when I see things like this, and I'm just like, oh, I hope that this ends up well. I really, really do for her. All right, so now we're going to fast forward a little bit in the relationship. They've been married for a couple of years, and now they have a daughter. And so let's play the next video.
So I just got back from the store, and my husband goes, "Did you enjoy your time? That was the other half to my Christmas gift." I'm like, "Where? What is it?"
I babysit for hours.
He says, "Freedom. You were gone for 2 hours, and I babysat."
Not Zaddy.
I love you, and he kissed me.
I was home with the baby. The greatest gift of all for a mother. I love you.
Now, that video sparked a lot of controversy because I think before it was just like agree to disagree on whether the age gap was appropriate, okay, whatever. But this one, people had a lot more to say about the fact that the dad, her husband, is saying, I was babysitting our daughter while you were out grocery shopping. And oh, by the way, that's the second half of your holiday gift or holiday present. I felt like this was another engagement farming post, like a lot of their other posts. But I also feel like there's an undertone of like, like, I don't know. When you have a child, it changes the dynamic of the relationship. And the things that you thought were so amazing about your partner, they still might be there, but they're buried underneath the stress and the exhaustion of having to raise a child together. I feel like any relationship, that first baby, it really challenges your relationship. Unless you guys just have like the perfect situation, the perfect circumstances come together. Most couples, when they have a baby together, they realize like, you ain't as great as I thought you were. And that's not to say the person isn't great. It's just your frustration, your stress levels, your lack of sleep. And you're not going to get out of sleep with a newborn baby. So I feel like there's rising frustration levels. There's that facade of perfection that you had with your partner. You don't get as much quality time together anymore. There was just like an undertone feeling in this video of like a little bit of contempt where it's like, okay, we're going to make this video because it's funny and it's going to get some engagement. But maybe off camera, we're going to talk about how you can't say you were babysitting our daughter because you don't babysit your own child. You just parent that child. And also, it's not like she was out during a spa day or out with her friends, which also would be okay, but she was out grocery shopping. So even if it's a joke, it's not a funny joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't piss me off. Now, I want to end with this last video, which isn't even their video that they posted. It's actually just two videos that they posted, but somebody took and put side by side about their origin story. So let's take a look at that.
Something is not right here.
Because we have like a ton of videos on where we met. We talk about it a lot. But we met at a bar in 2019.
I thought she was older because she was out at a bar. And
It was.
she wasn't.
I was wearing a ton of makeup. Like, this is nothing.
Lots of makeup.
Yeah, now I'm more natural. I wear fake eyelashes, like popping eyeshadow.
I had a few drinks.
Yeah, so. But even long. Okay, let me just say this real quick. But like I said in all of our other videos, I didn't even know how old he was when we started hanging out. We just hung out.
How come?
So I was working, and so I was a waitress. I keep seeing this guy like stare at me, he's not even in my section, so I'm ignoring him, so I'm like, I'm not gonna go over there. I keep staring. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going back and forth, doing whatever, and I come back out, and he's still like on my case, like.
You're okay. I figured if I stared at her, she was the only cute girl in the whole place. So I figured if I stare at her long enough, I'll get her attention, then she'll come to me. And then finally she starts looking at me, so I'm like, come.
Finally, I came over
What did I
there.
get myself into?
So if you remember earlier in the video, we saw their video about basically her being his daughter's friend in high school. These stories that they're telling doesn't sound like they were unaware of who the other person were when they met, right? Like, I don't know. It just makes me question, like, did y'all meet at a bar? Did y'all meet at a restaurant? Did y'all meet in high school when she was in high school with your daughter? Like, where did y'all meet? Where did y'all meet? And if you're lying about this, what else are you lying about? And I think those are the cracks in their brand, in their platform, that people are starting to be like, okay, what's really going on behind the scenes here? But honestly, who cares how they met? It's the fact that it's fishy, right? If you have a fishy story, it doesn't lend much credibility to who you are as a couple. And especially on social media, people really buy into the idea of like, you're being authentic, you're being yourselves, you're being just normal, everyday people. But when you start to have things like this, the internet starts to get a little bit more, how do I put it? A little bit more doubtful of the type of content and the intention behind the type of content that you put out. But honestly, when I sat down to write some notes about this couple and think about what I wanted this episode to be about, I didn't want it to be like a bashing session of this couple because, like I said, I don't wish bad upon them, whether I agree with how they're living their lives or not. What I do want to caution people about is the narrative that it's okay to basically just find a rich sugar daddy husband and your life will be perfect. Like I mentioned in the story of the Shira 7 inspired woman, I don't know her name, but anyways, the fact that there's people online making content telling young, impressionable girls out there that as long as you find a husband, as long as you find a rich husband, or as long as you find a white husband, we'll get into that. I'm going to show some videos that she posted as well. And luckily they're short, so you guys can just kind of just power through them. But the type of content that people put out there to invite other young girls to do the same thing that they're doing, or to glamorize their life in a way that makes it look like everything is perfect as long as you find a rich husband. I am so against that kind of content. Listen, I think being married is great. I love being married, but it doesn't have to be your whole identity. It doesn't have to be every aspect of who you are. I feel like we're multifaceted people. We're multidimensional people. I don't think you should decenter men. I don't think you should decenter women. I think we are interdependent, like I mentioned in another video that I made. But I think when you, as a young girl especially, center your whole life around the fact that you were able to bag a rich man, you were able to secure the financially stable husband who's going to take care of you for the rest of your life, it makes me wonder what exactly is going on up here, right? Like, I don't like when people sell themselves short. I really don't. And I feel like in this situation, there's a little bit of that. And I'm going to share a video actually where she talks about like, oh, when you're 23 and you've already, reached all your milestones and there's nothing else for you to look forward to in life. Girl, 23 is so young. 23 is so young. And I would hate to think that she thinks she's made it. Like, whether you find a rich husband or not, whether you have your perfect life or not, there's still so much more to life. As long as you have this and you're still breathing, you have so much more to look forward to in life than to say, I've made it. Like, this is it, and this is what you all should strive for. I don't like that kind of narrative. I don't like that kind of message that's being sent to young girls out there, especially when we're in this age of like economic difficulty and people are like, how am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to achieve my dreams? Who's going to pay for my school? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? I don't want people to fall into the trap of thinking that if you find a man to pay for those things, that your life will be set. There's so much more that goes into a relationship than just money. And when people fixate on the financial aspect of a relationship and not the other things, it just makes me wonder, like, okay, maybe he's taking care of you, but does he also consider watching his own daughter babysitting? Does he give you shit for that? I don't know. None of us know. But it makes me wonder, like, I don't want women out here being airheads, is what I'm getting at. Don't just think that sprinkle is all that you need. Like, there's more to life than just marriage and men. And I say that as someone who is married. I say that as someone who believes in the institution of marriage, who believes in keeping the family together, who believes in everybody playing their role and doing their part to make the family successful, to make society successful.